Welcome to everyone. One Monday here. Hello, Carmen. How are you?
Hello, I'm so excited to be back here with you, Yasmina. I mean, I really enjoy taking part in this. So being here another day, it's a complete joy for me.
For me too. I actually miss you the other day, and I
Oh,
I guess all our audience miss you too. So, but today we have an amazing guest. I think everyone
mm-hmm.
is pretty excited about it. So let's introduce ourselves really quickly. So
Okay.
I'm an intellectual property lawyer, and you, Carmen, who are you?
I'm a host, cast, interviewer in esports. So there you go. Really brief, really straight to the point.
So, are you excited for our new guest?
You'd know how excited I
Yay!
am. Woo!
So, Mike, thank you so much for be here.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
We are really
Um,
excited to have you here. Actually, I think everyone, our audience is going to be a tremble like me.
You're
we're
far too kind.
really want to know more about Esports Awards, which in case you've got down your name, but in case people don't like who is Mike Ashford, there you go. We'll talk about that more in depth. But Jasmina, are you ready?
I'm ready. So, starting with the presentation. So, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Absolutely. So I'm Mike. I'm the CEO of the Esports Awards.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with the company since 2016. I'm an avid esports and gaming fan, and I've been blessed to work in the industry over the last 6 years, and really since the inception of the Esports Awards. Inside of work, I sort of run the business day to day, and I'm culpable for basically keeping us in business effectively. So I get to work with our marketing and content team, our operations team, and our partnerships team on building out each and every year and each and every award show. And then outside of work, I have my little boy Archie and my wife
Aw.
Emma. So I spend a lot of time with them, get to do a lot of cool stuff. I make pizza. There's a random fact about me. I got
Oh.
into it during the pandemic, and now I get to make some authentic Italian pizza.
Oh my God, that's
Hmm.
amazing. I think they're really lucky to have you. Eh?
Yeah. I'd like to know. This is a random question that I just thought about, but do you have like an Esports Awards pizza?
That's a good question. No, we don't. We
Um.
certainly should. I guess one thing we've always looked at is what should be the signature drink of the Esports Awards,
Okay.
because we're always doing toasts, right? We're always celebrating and
True.
recognizing those who deserve it. So we've always said what would be like the ideal drink or
Mhm.
cocktail of the Esports Awards. So our theme song is called Gold Dust. And it's
Okay.
basically like
Okay.
something that's embodying us. So we've always said, like, if we had a drink, it should be called the Gold Dust, and it should definitely have like gold flakes through it.
I love it.
Ooh, lush. I like it.
Definitely, I'll be drinking a few of those later this year.
Oh, we really want to taste it. But well, you've told us about yourself, which is real interesting to know, to get to know the person behind that, all of that, because many times we don't really know who you are when you are not walking at what you're walking. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that phase of yourself. Tell us what was the video game that got you into esports, and also how did you end up here? Because you've been walking here since 6 years ago, but what were you doing before that?
That's a great question. I think from a video game perspective, I guess there's been a lot
Mhm.
of games along the way that have really sort of given me that competitive itch to get into esports and sort of recognize those playing at the top level. But the two games I'd sort of pinpoint are RuneScape, which was pretty much my childhood.
Oh,
I put thousands of hours into it. I'm coming up to my 20-year cape, the Veterans Cape, which I'm quite excited about, even though I don't play anymore. I like to collect, and I guess the thing that sort of kickstarted it for me overall was League of Legends. That
oh,
was really sort of like the second coming of me being a part of the gaming and esports scene in my career, and it goes back to the 2013 World Championships. And my little brother
oh.
Alex, who actually works for us now as our social media manager,
Mhm.
he was watching the World Finals while we were out at dinner, and I was trying to get him off his phone. I was saying that he was being rude, that he wasn't really paying attention. So I was like, "Put your phone away," and he was like, I can't. Somebody's about to win $1 million." And I was like, no one's going to win $1 million on your phone. And then I watched it and I was like, wow, these teams are actually going to
Mhm.
win $1 million. And like that just got me to this point where I was like, this is real. Like this thing that we all grew up playing and being told, oh, get off our games and do some actual work, was now validated and was a way of creating some funds and some sustainable revenues. So it sort of intrigued me. I was absolutely fixated with it and knew there'd be a point in my career where I'd have to get into esports.
I mean, in your defense, we shall say that that World Championship in 2013 was preceded by one in which they were playing in like as a joke in a basement, uh, with like 20 attendees. So you've really caught esports in at the right time, I think. And it's a really nice story, like your brother got you into this, you were like kind of skeptic about it, and then look at you walking here.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have a similar story in that, guys, because we're all looking for that validation that this could be real. And for me, going back before that, I had like a Google video channel way back before it was YouTube that I had a lot of subscribers on. And I used to play competitively in video games, but you never dream that you'd get to a point where it could create a career for you. And suddenly we're living in this world where everyone can sort of work in esports and find their journey in, which is a crazy place to be in. And I wish I could go back 15 years and tell 15-year-old me that.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And actually, because, there are so many people who actually didn't end up here because they were doing all the kind of careers. And then finally they managed to be there because at the end, you need people who have different backgrounds. And actually, we know that for for your history, that you have been working in other fields. How does it help you to actually manage to be a marketing director and then to be the CEO? This career path that you follow help you in somehow?
Yeah, I think it's crucial that you've got skills from other industries that you can sort of transfer across to esports, and gives you a way in. I don't think you need them from day one, but there are so many vocations now that add value to working in the esports industry. And for myself, that was marketing. Prior to working for the Esports Awards, I had a long career in marketing. I went to university, studied for 4 years towards a major and minor honors degree in marketing, came out with a first class honors degree, and then from there worked in a number of blue chip companies in the field, the biggest of which is probably the Mawson Group, which is a technical recruiter over here in the UK, that had scarce skills roles. So you really had to be able to market and position the candidates and the roles to make it sort of fit and work. And that sort of came across to me with esports, in knowing how to position a company in the market, get across the values and qualities that you share with that audience, and really build it out in the best way possible. And that's where I think I found my strong spot, was being able to sort of identify some of those things I was already doing and bring them across to esports. And I think the other one was really sort of success tracking and monitoring. It's something I had to do in my marketing career day in, day out, was check the metrics, the KPIs, and how we're sort of converting from an everyday perspective. And that's something we brought to all of our partners and sponsors, was real tangible ways to track how things are going and where some of the successes are. And I think it stood me well. But I think back then you needed something like that, like a marketing or broadcast to get in. Whereas now you can come in from any walk of life, whether that's from a law perspective or any other place that you can be. There's a way into esports for you. And I guess the other side is alongside my career, I always had hobbyist roles, in broadcast or in moderating forums or creating different like games and chat rooms and stuff. That was just sort of another way that I could apply skills that I'd built because I enjoyed working things out or coding or doing these different things that would then add value on a day-to-day basis in my role.
So you did quite a few things.
I like to be busy.
I have to say that, for example, our actually the founder of Esports Business Life is Emilio, and we always say that he's quite busy and he likes to be busy. So I think you can hang out one day.
Absolutely. I love Emilio. Big shout out to Emilio.
Hi,
So Emilio,
Emilio.
I hope you hear it. He loves you. Eh?
Absolutely.
Hello there. So this is so interesting because you were talking about marketing, right? And marketing is something that perhaps in the beginning some organizations didn't really take into account. I'm thinking now about esports teams that didn't really give it importance. It does have, like, you can have a really good team in whatever you're competing, but if you didn't have a good marketing team as well, then where does all of that effort go? And I'd like to ask you, how would you define the relationship between esports and marketing?
I think it's crucial, and I think it's now more than ever something that sort of is needed on a day-to-day basis. I think when esports first came to prominence and there was less saturation, it was easier to skate by without marketing and just rely on your results. If you were winning, then people would follow you, they'd watch you, and you could grow that way, right? And it's something we've seen across the board. And even in the older days, those that could also win and could also market themselves would do both in a very good manner. If you look at Optic, they're a team that were very good at marketing themselves, building a brand identity, and then building engagement around the brand. And then they were also a very strong team that could win. So those two things resonated and created an audience like no other. And then you saw that sort of embodied by the likes of Team Solo Mid, Cloud9, and then even G2 as well. Teams that have like massive fanfare and engagement above that of everyone else because they created an identity at the right time and also had some pretty strong results. Why marketing is so important these days is because esports is saturated now, whether we want to believe it or not. And a lot of that came down to franchising. When the franchise leagues all started to be launched, with them came brand new identities for the leagues themselves, for the broadcasts, and then for the teams. Overnight, we went from having maybe 10 teams that we all knew of, we recognized, and we could follow, to having 40, 50 teams that came out of nowhere that were brand new. They were brand new brands, brand new logos, and they all had to stand for something. They had to have a unique selling point that meant that some of that fanfare in esports would convert and go and follow them. And I think a lot of them didn't get that in the first instance. They felt like they could set up a team, create a logo, create a jersey, and get an audience off the back of it. And it just hasn't worked. So you've seen in 2021 teams having to be a lot more clever with how they create fanfare and audience share. And I think FlyQuest is always a really good example of this, of a team. So a team that started out with probably an identity that they felt would fit with their target audience, but not something that they stood for. And now over the last 3 years, you've really saw them go back to the drawing board and say, well, what do we actually care about? What do we want to represent within the gaming scene? And a lot of it came down to sustainability. It came down to initiatives to save the planet. And they've had Tree Quest, they've had Bee Quest, they've had Sea Quest, and all these different things that have led to them ultimately rebranding themselves and repositioning themselves in the market, which I think everyone's just seen as a net positive for them and something that they'll win long term with. But I think there's still probably another 30 teams out there that don't have a very clear pattern and path of what they're trying to be in the industry that will come to lean on marketing more and more in the next sort of 18 months.
So it's such an inside job for Berlin right now. And as for FlyQuest, I gotta say I love the equipment, like the shirt, the official shirt is just really, really beautiful. So really nice to have some examples and thrown in there as well, because when we talk about marketing in esports, sometimes it's like, what is it? You can see it clearly represented in the teams you've mentioned. So thank you for that. And moving on, Yasmina, I think we can almost move on to Esports Awards.
Yes, we can. But I wanted to ask you, Mike, because of course you are doing different fields, but how you end up in the Esports Award? What was your story? I wanted to know the anecdote, if you can do it, how it was just simply that you apply or was something behind it. So if you can tell us a little bit about it, I will be appreciated. And also if because as you tell us, you see in a mobile phone how the industry was evolving and see that it's actually something that's living and taking place. So working in the Esports Hours give you another perspective as well. I would like to I'm curious about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little bit of a cheesy one in some ways, but I think I was destined to work in esports and gaming. And I wanted it ultimately. So 2013, I watched a team, SKTT1, win $1 million on a stage and absolutely conquer everyone in an industry. And then from there, I spent another sort of 2.5 years in other industries, really sort of owning my craft, learning how to best market companies, brands, businesses, build websites and all these things. But I wanted to work in esports. And at that stage, I knew that I wanted to work in esports. So I started to sort of work out where I wanted to be. And at the time, we started playing League of Legends at a competitive level. Myself, my brother, and some friends were all lucky to be sort of in the top 0.75% from a skill perspective. And start taking on some of the big leagues. Sadly, we didn't really win a lot. We won a couple of Insomnia tournaments at an intermediate level, but didn't really take home the riches we wanted to. And that sort of said to me that we're not going to get into this by playing competitively. And then it was looking at, well, could we create a team? Could we own a team of players that are better than us and then find ways to monetize off the back of that? And it just didn't interest me. I wanted a competitive way to get into esports that no one else had thought of, that no one else had done. And at the time, I was moving over to work in an agency. That agency had a contract with a large sort of tournament organizer. And through that and some sheer luck, I met our founder and now advisor, Tom Mercy, who basically pitched me the idea of the Esports Awards in about half an hour. And I was bought in from that moment onwards. I was sort of, I listened to it and I was like, this is a golden idea. You've got a golden goose here because no one else is doing it. There's a level of gratification in esports that's born from winning tournaments and winning these trophies, but esports is also fragmented, right? Because you've got within esports, you've got League of Legends, CSGO, you've got COD, Rocket League, all these different things that exist that don't speak with each other, and there's no general language to say who some of the best players are. And that brought me in straight away. And I've always had this really corny catchphrase, which is, I was never good enough to win trophies, so why don't I hand them out? And that's sort of what we got to with that story is effectively, I came onto the project there. We got Twitch in as a broadcaster. We did a couple of sponsorships. We had our first ceremony in 2016, which had about 80,000 live viewership. And then fast forwarding to 2020, we had over 15.5 million, which is just a crazy place to be. A lot of hard work in the middle from a lot of different people as well.
It's amazing.
It truly is. It's a really inspiring story going on for you. And once again, something that we like to reiterate episode after episode is how you can do a lot more things than just being a player. You can do things, including such original ideas as this one. And well, you've hinted a little bit at what Esports Awards are, but I would like to for you to tell us, what is it? What are the Esports Awards? What do they consist of?
It's a good question, and I think it's always growing. So I like to start by saying it's a platform for recognition in the competitive gaming industry at this stage. We're the de facto platform, and we've really got to this stage where we've built out a year-round content strategy that allows us to be ever present in recognizing, adjudicating, and voting on who the best of the best are within the field. Some very kind people have always likened us to the Oscars of the esports world, and building out the glitz, the glamour, and the sort of the biggest night in esports, and in a black tie affair. So I think overall it's hard to quantify, and I probably need to work on a better elevator pitch around how it is. But ultimately, we recognize that the best in the industry from a competitive gaming perspective.
Okay, so I mean, as someone who's been watching you grow, I feel like that's definitely a really good way to put it. And if you still have doubts, like 4 years, you can always go to the webpage and you will find all the categories. You can find more information, but this was a really, really good elevator pitch tool. So thank you very much for that, Mike.
And thank you so much for that expression, because I didn't know it. I love it. So, but before I launch another question, I think it will be really nice to show a video so the audience can see how all the things that Esports Awards actually involve, and all the things they have, in a way, like all the highlights for. So I'm going to put this video, and I hope all the audience enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're live from the Esports Stadium in Arlington for the 2019 Esports Awards. Whew. Let's get it started.
Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington.
Welcome to Arlington.
All the time that you spend, what a day cost.
Welcome to the Esports Awards 2019, live from Arlington, Texas.
You should make one. Yeah. You show your real side when the day comes. Under the cover of the nighttime, you're trying to speak over the baseline, but I can't hear you, no, no, no. I can't hear you, no, no, no. Catch you slipping on the FaceTime. Every kiss that I could taste lies. I don't wanna hear you, no, no, no. I don't wanna hear you, no.
I'm excited. It's going to be a great night. You guys excited in here?
No, I'm riding. No, don't wanna No, here it goes again. I guess I always knew that you're everything you do. Don't know if it's true.
And the winner is
Little Jam.
Right next.
Logan Dodson.
Loaded. Sexy Kate. Henry G.
HyperX.
It's Sam.
Booga.
Is Richard Lewis. Intel.
You want a good life, you should make
Sonic Astralis.
A-Shot.
Show your real side when the day comes.
All my fans all over the world, I appreciate you guys. And y'all have a fantastic day. Thank you.
League of Legends.
And the winner is Deserto.
G2 Esports.
I don't wanna hear you, no.
Booga.
Sonic Fox.
I'm riding. No, don't
Golden Boy.
No, here it goes again. I guess I always knew it.
And the winner is Dr. Disrespect.
I can't believe what you did last night. I can't believe we danced for the last time. No, I don't need you. I need
Team
myself.
Liquid.
No, I don't need you. I need myself. I can't believe what you did last night. Cause now I see you in a new light. No, I don't need you. I need myself. No, I don't need you. I need myself. I can't believe what you did last night. I can't believe we danced for the last time. No, I don't need you. I need myself. No, I don't need you. I need myself. I can't believe what you did last night.
Oh my god, that was amazing to watch it and rewatch it again.
It's giving me chills now. I can't wait to be back in the stadium next month.
We are pretty excited about it, and it's going to happen. So you will tell us a little bit. But first of all, I think I don't know if it was Carmen or I who asked the question. Sorry,
I think
Carmen.
it was your time, I think. I mean, if you
Okay.
want me to go, I'll go. I've got
No,
some
I
questions
go.
too. Okay.
So we want because of course we want to know more about Esports Awards, but of course I wanted to know more about you, Mike. So how is your role in Esports Awards? Because I know that you started as a marketing director and then you move on to the CEO. So I wanted to know how challenges it were to this career path that you followed inside Head, and how was your experience for you?
I think it's something that's really defined me over the sort of the last 5 or 6 years, really, as I've sort of changed my career. And I think, like I said, I sort of went through university for 4 years, built out myself in a marketing capacity. And then with every company that I've worked at, I've created iterative progress in marketing to really move into senior roles. And I think the Esports Awards is the first company I've worked at that was more important than my own progress. So for the last sort of 5 or 6 years, it's really been tailoring my skill set to how you run an award show at this level. Overall. So instead of looking at what skills I want to learn to better myself, it was what skills can I learn to better the Esports Awards, which started very traditionally in a marketing capacity, building out websites, building out voting patterns, learning how to promote the awards to the best of its ability, learning how to promote off the back of an event that happens once a year, and then create relevance throughout the rest of the year so that when you next turn on the lights and you have a big award show, you know people will turn up, you know people will watch it, and really build it out in that capacity, which then translated to all of the other elements of my role, from sort of getting to work with some of the biggest and most recognized brands on the planet in activating their esports and gaming strategy alongside them, to building out these huge award shows. I mean, I've worn a lot of hats as we've sort of grown, but most excitingly for me, I've been able to watch our team grow. That's been the bit that's been really cool to see, because when we first started the awards, there was a handful of us that could really afford to work full time on this and to build it out. And now I get to work with around 15 very talented people on building out the program year on year and building out the year-round content that we build. We have a platform called Play of the Month, in which every month the community can vote on the best plays that they see across all different esports. And then at the end of the year, they vote on the Play of the Year, which is an amalgamation of everyone who won the Play of the Month. We have our weekly recaps, which sort of break down the industry with our host F. And then we have the spotlight shows on sort of a bi-monthly basis that sort of break it down. And it's been incredible to see sort of so many people around me that work on this really step up to deliver content at this level. I think we get a lot lot of compliments around how things look, how our programs run, how our events are built out and operate. And it's just been cool to sort of see that journey and be able to do sort of some of the heavy lifting at the start, but now look at a team that are capable to really run this and build it over the next sort of 5 and 10 years.
It's amazing, Mike, because you show a lot of passion, and it's so nice that you give us the, um, I mean, like a little bit of the background. I mean, we can see how the team is evolving, how it's growing, and to see that everything that we see is, of course, the look, but there are people behind it, and they're working really hard to give us this maximum and beautiful experience. And I'll have to say that I love how you express like how you can help Esports Awards to evolve. That shows how much passion and care you have for this, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It does. So Mike, also you did say, hey, I thought about creating a team, and well, looking into different options, but you wanted to do something different. And you talked about how this was pitched to you. So could you tell us a little bit about how did that pitch go? Especially how did this project come to be? What were the ideas behind it, even before you joined the team?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's evolved a lot, but the core premise is still there, right? Which is a gala dinner that celebrates the best in industry. And I think in 2016, that's how it was really sort of viewed, is that it could be this premier gala dinner in the esports industry that could sort of celebrate everyone within sort of 2.5 hour platform and show in which you create and generate revenue off of hospitality. That was how it was sort of starting out. And that's how it was pitched to me effectively, is that we could create and recognize people throughout a program that culminates in this gala dinner ceremony. But I think very quickly we all knew there was more to it, and there was a much bigger opportunity around it. And when 80,000 people tuned in to watch it on the night, it was like a champagne moment for us, because we were like, 80,000 people care about this thing that we dreamed up over sort of this period and that came together very, very quickly. That's pretty cool. But I think it also just gave us this real sense of responsibility, because Tom Mercy, who founded the company, he's always had the 3 C's, which is credibility, credibility, credibility. And that's something we've always upheld and had with the Esports Awards. And it's been very important with the fact that we're sort of independently owned, is that we can uphold that and build out this platform. And to the esports community and the industry, it's something we've always been able to take very seriously as we've built it out. And we recognized probably in 2017 that we had this place in the market where we have to do our best to sort of build out the recognition in the industry, because one, there's no one else that's going to take on something at this level and at this size, but two, we'd sort of found ourselves in the place where we were that platform and we had that responsibility to the audience.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Carmen.
Oh no, I just wanted to say that, I mean, awards for different sectors in this case have been, and still even we've seen the YouTube Awards, the Beauty Guru Awards as well. So Esports Awards were just something that were waiting to happen, and you did make it real. So that's just amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to know, for example, for you, in your own words, what value Esports Award bring to the esports sector?
I think it's in our core pillars. It's something, again, we've upheld since the really start, and it's recognizing excellence is obviously the first and foremost. It's very important that there's a system in place and that peers come together to really recognize who made the biggest dent in a year-by-year basis. Secondly, it's honoring the industry, because I know for us and so many others, we wouldn't get to do what we love without the support of the different sponsors, the different tournament organizers, the publishers, and everyone that sort of comes together to create the competitive gaming scene, to sort of make sure that there are opportunities to monetize, opportunities to work in what we all love to do. And then the last one that's so important for me is actually to create and document legacy within esports, so that we can see where things are. Because before the Esports Awards, there wasn't really that end of year piece that really sort of gave the accolades to those who were worthy and needed to be recognized. And now I look back and I see that from 2016 onwards, we can really chase out and change who were the biggest streamers, who were the biggest personalities, which teams were doing the best, which players were the best in their fields. And every year you can sort of see what told the story and what the themes were, from 2016 being sort of very League of Legends and Dota influenced, with CSGO very much on there as well. 2017 was sort of the breakthroughs of like the likes of Overwatch coming to fruition and being a part of things. 2018 was the year that Fortnite sort of took over the world and Battle Royale really sort of launched. And then even in 2019 as well, you sort of had the Fortnite World Cup, and suddenly overnight Booga was a name that every parent knew, as well as the kids, because they wanted to know how their kid could go make $3 million playing video games. And I think even last year sort of does document and showcase something really important, because it was a year like no other. And our platform did a really good job of actually showcasing how well esports coped in the worst circumstance possible. And now that's going to live forever. That's sort of immortalized in our program, that you can sort of see and understand who the best players were, despite the fact they were playing online again, which tournament organizers. And I think even with the hardware winner last year, the hardware provider of the year, that was Elgato who won that. And that was probably the circumstances that led a little bit to them winning that award. And I think that's always a really cool thing to be able to see, because in that year, Elgato were probably the most important hardware provider in esports, because every single person I knew had a Stream Deck or had the air lights and the different platforms that meant that they could broadcast from home, and they could run these really slick different shows in a way that you wouldn't be able to had Elgato not stepped in with their product line.
That's true.
So now let's talk about the nominees, right? Because we've been throwing names here and there, and now I want to know a little bit more about what the selection process is like. Because, okay, to the show, we've got like about 8 candidates or more, I think, about more or less. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Is this the award categories or the nominees per award?
I'm talking about the nominees in general. How many nominees are there per category?
So there tends to be between 8 and 12, depending on the category, and around 350 to 400 finalists a year.
Wow. So how are these people selected? Because I know that we as viewers can throw in like our nominees and be like, I want this person to win this award in particular because of this and that. But tell us a little bit about the insights of the entire selection.
Absolutely. And the first thing I can say is that it's a long process, and I think it gets longer every year. We're very fortunate that we've got a panel of experts that sort of sit on the process and volunteer their time on a year-to-year basis to really help make sure that we get the right finalists, the right winners, and the right process to follow on it. So we've been very privileged to see that panel grow from around 12 people in 2016 to over 50 people in 2021. Wow. And there's mainstays of the industries, from Ifya Shock to Portray, through to Alex Golden Boy Mendez, through to some of the biggest in the industry side, such as Mark Chang, who heads up esports and gaming over at Verizon. So you get a really established bunch of people together that really care about the industry, seeing it grow, but also making sure that those that are recognized are the right people. So it always starts with one nomination. Way back at the start of the season, we really try and plan the campaign to start as pre-season starts in each of the titles. So when teams are first starting to scrim, they're starting to become public facing, and you can see them. That's the time that we like to open nominations, so that you can start considering who are some of these teams that might be the best teams come the end of the season, or who are some of the people in different categories that are standing out even at that stage. And then from there, we have 5 different award categories. We have community, industry, creative, pro, and on-air talent that sort of make up the Esports Awards. We'll call them a golden 5 for now. And throughout the year, in tranches, we unveil the finalists in each of them from those nominations. So the community nominate. The panel then come together and meet in a number of sessions to review all of those submissions from the community and go through them, understand the merits, understand some of the highs, some of the lows, and what should really make it. From there, they take all of those community nominations, they look at the volume, the numbers, and then they also put forward their top 5 for each awards category. And then at that stage, they get amalgamated, put together, and then put to our panel council, who then sign off on the final finalists that then go out on each of our spotlight shows throughout the year. That process happens 5 times, once for each of the awards categories, and that's
Okay.
just to hit the shortlisting process. So then once you're a finalist, you're then encouraged and asked to submit your supporting information to the panel. You can submit PDFs, you can submit video content, you can submit highlight reels to really break down and showcase what makes you special and what makes you the worthy winner of the award category. Then the panel meet again a further 5 times to review all of that information, to speak around each and every one of the finalists, and to ultimately sort of decide where people sit before they then all vote independently. Then when they vote independently, all of those votes are then collected. They're amalgamated for each category, and then they're paired up with a community vote as well, because obviously the community also make up 25% of the voting. And then at that stage, when those come together, you ultimately have your first, second, and third place.
But you say it as if it was so easy, but like right now, I'm just mentally trying to put all this information together and be like, okay, this sounds so complex and so like it takes a long time, and 5 times to this. That's crazy, absolutely crazy.
It's a lot of hours. Yeah,
It sounds like it.
We're very lucky that our panel are sort of so bought into the concept, and they all volunteer their time as well. So they all take volunteer positions to be a part of this and to make sure it works. And that's just for the 5 categories as well that I mentioned. But we also have other things that the panel have brought forward, such as our Lifetime Achievement class, in which the panel sort of come together to discuss every year who should be inducted into the Lifetime Achievement class. And then on top of that, you also have our Panel's Choice Award, which is the only award in the Esports Awards that is 100% voted by just our panel, and they come together to understand, should it be an unsung hero, or is there some feat that someone's adopted within the industry that is so worthy of recognition that the whole panel want to award them.
Okay.
Oh my God, but I have to say there has to be a lot of hours to take into consideration. And how much do candidates receive on average, if you can, at least for one category, if you can tell us?
So it tends to differ depending on the awards, but community voting wise, I believe last year we hit 5.1 million votes in total. This year, actually, as of today, we hit 5 million votes. So I guess I'm trying to think if there's any good examples that I can give, but I can't remember anything off the top of my head. I guess Streamer of the Year last year for that award category, that had around 500,000 votes just for that one award category.
Wow, that's really a lot.
Here's one. I don't know if this is public or not. I know Ibai is a big personality in Spain.
Yeah,
he gets a lot of love. I think so. He was our Streamer of the Year last year, and I believe when he won that award, he had over 180,000 votes just on his own, just him as one streamer, which is pretty crazy.
It really deserves it. Even friends that are not into esports know him. You know, like for example, the other day I was talking to one of my friends, and he does a pretty good job here in Spain. So he gave us love. It deserves it.
So another question that arises from this is, you've talked about how the candidates are encouraged to, put their candidature forward and explain what they do and why they should be receiving the award. But have you been in the situation where a candidate has been like, hey, I don't want to be part of this, and just withdrawing from the competition?
That's a very good question. I have to be honest, there's not been a lot of circumstances when that's been the case. I think a lot of people are sort of really supportive of what we do and being a part of it. They're not always the easiest to get hold of. Some of these people have very busy lives and very hard timelines to get hold of. We're quite persistent, if I'm honest. We always want to make sure that we can recognize the right people and be able to talk to them. I guess maybe there's a couple of circumstances where people don't really want the acknowledgement, or they want to sort of lay low. In that circumstance, it goes back to our panel, and ultimately the panel are the ones that want to recognize those moments in time. So they want to make sure it's documented regardless at that point. So they sort of vote based on merit and whether there's enough there to go on.
Okay. It's something that we've seen at the Oscars several times, like people not wanting to receive the award, or not walking to take it, or not attending the ceremony. So that is just bound to happen at some point, but it's interesting that there haven't been so many cases so far.
Yeah. And I think because we constantly evolve, it's well received, I guess. We're not too proud to rest on our laurels and say that one format's going to work until the test of time. What we're very good at doing is saying that this needs to happen now as it is, because you can't really learn from or build from it until you've done it. And then once you've done it, you can understand how it was received, how it's perceived, and really sort of changed from there. So again, the panel meet in January and discuss the whole campaign from the previous year. They go through what they liked about it, what they didn't like, how awards felt overall, any that they felt were a little bit weak from a category perspective, and then sort of reimagine the awards year on year. And we're lucky to have them be able to do that, but I also think it's really cool that we can do that so that the awards are always improved. So when we used to have an award called Supporting Agency of the Year, that really sort of fell into like talent management and things like that. And then this year we've sort of reworked it, so it's now Supporting Service of the Year, and it can encompass so many different elements and facets. So instead of it being really sort of talent management orientated, it's now better at encompassing law firms, legal that gets involved, communications platforms such as Discord, and all of these different elements that sort of come together to offer the best service to people within esports.
And what about the campaigns? Because I wanted to know how long a candidate could expand it. If there, for example, if there is any situation that they extended a lot and is not allowed, or if there is any punishment or any repercussions for it.
I think we always try and be as good as we can be in understanding that people have busy schedules. A lot of the time they want to do it, but they've got to do the thing that gets them paid first, right? Before they can sort of allocate time towards the Esports Awards. So in circumstances, we have tried to always be lenient in allowing people the time to submit their supporting information. And at times we'll also say, like, we'll just submit something generic for now and then revisit this when you have time. So for a lot of the companies, we always say, you must have marketing decks, right? You must have put something together that will represent your company. If you submit that to us for now, we can make sure it gets in front of the panel. And then if at a later date, there's still time for you to submit something else, then you have the opportunity to do so.
Okay, so definitely giving them, like, I mean, considering their time schedules and how busy they might be, I think that's a really smart idea and a really sensitive one, like completely making sense. But also, I'm really curious now about what is the most elaborate proposal you've received for a candidate. You didn't have to say name, but like, could you give us an example of some proposals, some ideas that surprised you and were like, okay, this person is really walking and really wants this award?
Yeah, I think the video content's always the best stuff that we receive. People that will go the extra mile to create a piece of content that's directly to the Esports Awards panel, where they'll acknowledge them and they'll say, hey, Esports Awards panel, we want to win this award and this is why we should win this award. And then they go through all the steps. And we've had a lot of good origin stories where you get to understand how a company was conceptualized and what they're doing in the market now, which I think is always a really cool piece to be behind the scenes on overall. I think the most funny ones will always be from G2 and Carlos over at G2. He sent us a lot of videos. I probably can't say too much around, but they've given us a good laugh over the last couple of years.
Oh,
Good to know that. And
yeah, I mean, the funniest one is his acceptance speech for Personality of the Year in 2020. He just didn't believe that he'd win that award, and we had to have an acceptance speech from everyone. So we chased him for months and months and months, and he finally got us this acceptance speech. And he basically was like, he started doing it, and then halfway through, he's like, I can't be bothered doing this. I'm not going to win the award anyway. And he threw his stuff in the air and he walked off. And that's all we had. So we had to play that during the award ceremony. That was the actual one that went out live on the night, was this piece. And he's like, I can't believe you played that footage. And I was like, I told you I'd play that footage.
of course, it's that what you sent us. We need to play.
Yeah.
No excuses there, but it's really funny. I have to watch it though. I need to watch it because I'm sure I will quite have a lot about it.
Definitely.
And now, Mike, I would like to ask you, because of course we are like saving the questions to elaborate, but how was for you 2020? How was for Esports Awards, the pandemic? How did it affect it? How do you manage to actually, did you, of course, this was a situation a catastrophic situation, of course, you don't know how to manage it. Look at me, I'm trembling just to talking about it.
I think I speak for everyone when I say 2020 sucked. in a lot of ways.
Love it, love it.
Yeah, it wasn't the best year on planet Earth for a lot of people. I think there was some really cool stuff around camaraderie and coming together and acting as sort of one team across the planet to try and beat COVID. But there was also a lot of hardship across every industry. And I think that the brightest thing we can say is that esports adapted very, very well. And as an industry, people were very quick to be able to pivot to what needed to happen and very quick to be able to build systems that were best in class that even traditional broadcasters hadn't thought of or didn't have a need for at that point. And for the Esports Awards, it put us in a really tough position and quite vulnerable, if I'm being very honest about it, because we've always been able to build the awards and the platform off the back of the fact that we have the biggest and the best and the brightest talent that can join us on the night to celebrate what they've achieved. And those people that would be in our audience, amplifying our event, joining the conversation on social media, and really being a part of what we're building, were not going to be there in 2020. They couldn't be there in 2020. And the biggest issue we've got in being in this new world where everyone streams is that suddenly if they're not at your show, they're your competition. They're online, they're generating revenue, they're building out their platforms, which was a really tricky place to be. So we knew very early on that we were in this probably worst case scenario where the people that would always want to support you also have to earn revenue in the same way that you do. And the people that would be in the room cannot be there. So we adapted very early to it. I think we just had to, on our side, admit that things weren't going to be the way they wanted to. So in March, we're already looking at what solutions can we put in place to do this justice and to make sure that we can in some way recognize what everyone is achieving and documenting what everyone is overcoming throughout the pandemic. And it was also our 5-year anniversary as well. So we wanted to make it special. We wanted to do something really cool. We had a ton of ideas of what we were going to do in person that just couldn't come into fruition at that stage. So we worked really, really hard and we found the right teams. And luckily we were able to build out this CGI spectacle that was a best in class sort of virtual arena that Shox did an incredible job of bringing to life for us and building something that I think resonated with a lot of people and had such a feel good nature to it. So it was a pretty crappy year. It was for everyone, but we found ways to adapt and overcome a lot of the challenges. I never want to work in CGI again. I'll be very, very honest. I lost a lot of my life in that one. I have a lot of wrinkles that you probably can't see on the camera that came as a direct response to working in CGI and surviving 2020. But I think the biggest thing we can take is that we've all made it through it, and we've all been resilient enough to sort of build around it and be able to create different ways of interacting and to make esports this truly global phenomena that it is. So the fact we can sit tonight and have this broadcast when we're all in different countries and different time zones speaks to the effect of living through COVID and being through this pandemic, is that we're all now a little bit more connected, even if we've never really been as far away.
That's true. I take this opportunity to just say to audience that the 10 minutes before the presentation ended, so if they want to launch the questions, and then we will start showing around. So, but first, we have a few questions more to ask.
Oh yeah, so what's the plan for this year? Because you said that you didn't want to work with CGI ever again. Are you gonna use it this year? You said something about Arlington or going to Arlington, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. We are very much back in 2021. Hey. So we'll be at the Esports Stadium in Arlington, Texas on November 20th for the Esports Awards. We're super excited about it. Obviously, the news of the travel ban to the US being lifted was a huge piece for us, and it really buoyed up our team and got us excited about stuff. So as always with COVID, there'll be some precautions in place. There's likely to be no general admission audience, but it means we can welcome all of our B2B guests, our VIPs, our influencers, and all of the finalists to the awards in the most safe manner possible. So we couldn't be more excited about what we should be able to achieve, and also how we're building out this year's awards. We really want it to be and represent a festival of esports where everyone can come together for the first time in what will be probably around 2 years, if I'm being honest. So it all starts on Thursday, the 18th of November, with the Esports Awards Open presented by the Golf Gaming Club, which is an 18-hole scramble format golf tournament, which is going to be a lot of fun and has some surprises. Then on Friday, the 19th of November, we have our Lifetime Achievement Ceremony, which is called the Prelude, which will see our 7 inductees able to accept their induction and also give a speech as to their careers and sort of take us through that journey with them. We have some really cool VIP trips planned for this year. We'll be going back to Six Flags behind closed doors so that 25 content creators.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't get to go. That's always my gripe.
Ah.
But 25
Oh, no.
content creators get to go and have the experience every kid wants, which is a theme park with all access, no queues, which will be really good fun.
Not all kid, I think.
Well, there's still all the attractions. There's the fairground rides, but there's also all the different prizes and stuff you can win. That's all open. We have a whole host of other surprises and things along the way. But obviously, the big one is on the Saturday with the Esports Awards. We'll have all of the finalists walking the red carpet. We'll have the pre-show. We then have the main ceremony. And then hopefully the best after party in esports straight after.
I'm just excited. Hopefully one day we will see Esports Venus live there. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe in the
Absolutely.
future.
Come on, Emilio, make it happen.
Yes, please, Amelia. If the audience can make a click, sort that now. And we send it. And Mike, I would like to know if there is, of course, you tell us all the future that it's preparing, but there are all the projects that you would like to share with us here in Esports Venus Live. That you're
In
pretty
terms
excited?
of...
In terms of esports awards related, or even from yourself, like a self project that you want to complete, perhaps.
I'm working on my golf. I need to make sure in Texas that I can play alongside some of the winners that will ultimately win the golf tournament. It won't be me. I guess on the business front, we have some really big surprises to launch at the Esports Awards in November. I can't speak about them yet, but I'm so excited to finally be able to. It's about 18 months in the making that we've really been working on the project and building up to some of the really cool moments that you'll get to see during the ceremony on November 20th.
We cannot miss it, Yasmina. We just have to
not
watch
to miss it.
We can't.
We can do it with popcorns for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a viewing party of sorts. We can do it. So, I mean, again, like Yasmina said, you've told us about the future, about your future plans as well. But what do you see the Esports Awards in about 5 years, long term? Do you think it'll become like something? It's already iconic, right, for esports? Like, it's the only of its kind. But what do you see? What do you see in 5 years? What do you think it'll mean to the esports industry in 5 years? Tell us.
I think it'll be a lot bigger overall.
Okay.
We've got a lot of ambitious plans on how we want to keep growing and keep extending it. I think I gave away that we really want to become the festival of esports, where everyone comes together at the same time for the same reason in the same place. And I think that'll be a really cool piece. So this year we've sort of committed to a 3-day schedule. I'd love to see us move towards a 5-day schedule long term and be able to build more B2B reasons to be at the Esports Awards. We already run breakfast events, summits, networking, and conferences around the programming. We want to really sort of double down on those elements. And I think just explore what more we can do with it. I think there'll be some more fragmentation of the awards itself as we start to build out different groupings. Obviously, this year's been really successful for our creative program, and we'd love to sort of see how we can make some of those initiatives more standalone.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Yes.
And because of course, I have the legal perspective and I always curious about this, but I wanted to know who are your biggest sponsors? Because I imagine there are a lot of brands who would like to be participating in these Esports Awards. So if you can name a few, or which ones do you think are the best involved in this ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think we've been very, very lucky over the years to work with some of the biggest brands on the planet, let alone esports. So we'll always have a soft spot for the work we got to do with Lexus in 2019 and 2020. We were the first brand that they came in and partnered with on an esports and gaming project. In 2019, they brought some of their coolest vehicles down to the show, including the car from the Black Panther films. So that was a really cool moment. And we actually built it into that ceremony as well. We brought it into the stadium. We had some moments in it, which was really cool. Last year, we got to build some stuff in CGI with them, which was a really nice place to be at. Verizon are someone that we've really enjoyed working with over the last couple of years. They're very ambitious, and we've got some cool stuff planned this year on how we can keep fans connected, even if they're not at the stadium itself. And then most recently, we've just launched a partnership with Expedia, which went live on Thursday last week, and they've been really, really good fun to work with. I think there's someone who fits into the esports ecosystem really, really well, and they want to do it justice. So yeah, even on that show, they had Jurgen Klopp, the manager of Liverpool Football Club, announcing that they were going to be part of the Esports Awards and doing some really cool stuff. So we're very fortunate to be placed where we are. But I also think we're a very authentic launch pad for a lot of these brands to get into esports and also remain sticky to the industry.
That's great. And also, Mike, maybe in the future we will see Esports Award maybe taking place in Europe by any chance? Because of course I imagine this mainly would be in USA, but maybe one day it could be here.
Yeah, I mean, we work on 3-year cycles. So we obviously had the 3 years in London first. So we had the 3 years in the UK. This will be our 3rd year in Texas. So we're still planning out what the future looks like, but never say never.
That would be great. In Spain.
Better weather for sure.
Oh yeah, please do it here. Also related, I wanted to ask the same question as Yasmina, but and I'm thinking about the calendar, right? And you said how you're launching campaigns throughout the year as the different esports launch their own like leagues and events. But I want to ask you, now that we're approaching the end of the year, you're gonna face the League of Legends World Championship, which obviously ends before that date, before the 19th November. But still, how do you manage to not clash with any event possibly related to yours?
A lot of planning and diligence. I will always be honest. As well as the Esports Awards has grown, I will never want to be in the position where I'm taking on the League of Legends World Championships. It is not a battle we'll win by any stretch, and certainly not a good synergy for either of us on that side. So I think we always have an understanding on when key dates will be, when the League of Legends World Championships will be, and when different things are. I guess this year there's a little bit of luck involved, because we basically had to take the date that we have on November 20th. The League of Legends World Championships have their final on, I want to say, either the 6th or the 8th of November. And then we also managed to miss sort of the Valorant Championship as well. So it was, it's one of those where you launch your day and then you start watching every week for the calendar and the big announcements. But I think we've also got to the stage where we are the curtain close to the esports season. So we're sort of that last major moment before everyone gets a little bit of downtime in December and then starts again in January.
I think that you might have like the Horizon Cup of Valorant at the same time. I'm not really sure about it, but you might be competing with that. Anyways, I mean, there's always going to be something, right? Like, even if it's at the end of the year, you've got so many events going on that it must be really difficult to keep track of all of them. So completely understandable. And thank you for the input about it. Like, okay, so dates also, because they're not released like immediately each year, they change a little bit, and you never really know. That must be another thing to really worry about. But for now, I think you have been sorting things out quite well.
I think too. So actually, we are getting close. I don't know if the audience have any questions. If not, we're going to continue asking. So
We've got about 2 minutes still.
yes, and you don't know a lawyer asking things. You don't know that. You don't want that.
No comment.
That's the polite way to act.
So, Yasmina, what I want to ask Mike, if you don't mind me, to perhaps
sure.
close
Go
a little
ahead.
bit the interview, is like, will you want to give us a statement of like, what does Esports Awards mean to you? And just to sum up this interview, like, what will you take away from the Esports Award, and what do you mean to them?
I think that's a really good question. I guess As you've probably heard from my answers today, I've got a lot of passion around the project, the platform that we've built. I've basically invested 6 years of my life to date to really trying to, I think, build the best platform we can and steer the right ship long term. And it's something I'm really proud of and immensely grateful for the opportunity to be able to run. So I just want to make sure I continue to do the best job I possibly can with it. But more excitingly for me, keep building the team that I think can run this for the next 10 years. And have those opportunities. When I was getting into esports, there weren't a lot of opportunities to be full time and to have something that could pay you a salary that meant that you could afford to eat, you could afford to pay rent and all those things. And now I'm fortunate that we have the opportunity to do that for so many people that are very talented and deserve the opportunity. So I think it's been like a real reckoning in my career because it showed me a different way to work and it's created a real sort of passion play in me where I will put the hours into it. I mean, last year there were some really unsustainable times where myself and some of the team were working 20 hours a day to sort of build out the CGI show and to make sure that we could do it justice to the industry. And I think you have to care about something an immense amount to be able to be willing to put yourself through that. Especially time and time again. There was a moment last year where we were coming up to the show and we were doing filming of different elements and we did a 20-hour day. And then I went to bed at 4 a.m. I woke up at 6 a.m. and then realized I had to do the whole thing again. And it was like this real like moment of it would be so easy to give up and to say, you know what, that's all I've got to give. I need to sleep now. But we kept finding a way to go through it. And you never want to have to do that. And you certainly don't want your staff to have to do it. But it was a mark of how much it means to the team that they were willing to sort of come through those bits and build out this show that sort of resonated with over 15 million people worldwide.
And beautiful words, really relevant ones that we should all keep in mind.
Yes. And I think we have... Oh, sorry, go
sorry, you go.
No, go. It's because I saw a stupid question that I like. I'm sorry, Inculus, but I really enjoy it. It's actually someone who's commenting a lot. And have you considered making jokes awards like best weird birder player or most lucky online match?
Which one's that? Sorry.
I don't know.
Inculus was
Inculus, yes.
And what was the question?
Okay, so
have you considered making jokes awards? Like the best jokes awards in
So we tend to have a roast when we're in person.
Okay.
We didn't do it in 2020 because it didn't feel like the right time and the right atmosphere for it. So it was very celebratory. It was very much around the moment and the adversity everyone faced and came through. 2019, however, we had Shocks and Golden Boy do like a roast of the audience. So they made jokes of some of the finalists and they sort of pointed fun at them. So I would like to see that return this year. I won't lie. I'm very self-deprecating. I'd love for him to be able to have some fun at some of the finalists' expenses.
Okay. I think we deserve it right now. So if there is no further question, and because we have to be really strict with the time, so we will have to say goodbye to our guests. But please, Mike, stay a little bit before I end it because we would like to properly say goodbye. I will put you down. But it has been
Thanks
really a
very
pleasure
much.
to have you here. So
thank you, Mike. Thank you.
So, Carmen, I was really excited to have him. Yes, it was amazing.
I really loved getting to know what the inside process is and what it all consists of. Like, it is a lot of work that I hadn't even thought about. So definitely a lesson to learn there, Yasmina, and I really enjoyed this having Mike as our interview.
Yes, and actually, I hope to see you nominate and maybe you won it. And I hope I would vote for you for sure in the future.
Thank you, Yasmina. I think there's still on time to do so. Even though I told Mike before we started that I'm going for the host award next year, but I mean,
so give it a high of our Carmen. So, guys, it's been a pleasure as always to have you here Monday. We have a wonderful guest today. It was amazing. So please don't forget, if you like our content, to follow us and to give it just a like. That's all. And don't forget that tomorrow we have a program with workers and all the entire week with Esports Fitness Live. So you have to enjoy.
Thanks, enjoy. So with that being said, Yasmina, I think we're ready to say goodbye until next week. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.